Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today talking about the Justin Fields press conference, and I guess a couple other things. But yesterday was a little wild with the Bears. Mostly, I think if you were paying attention to Twitter, social media, and all that stuff, because they made it way worse than it actually was. I actually got by one of these troll accounts on Twitter, fake Adam Schefter, and it said that Eberflus had resigned. Then it was saying that they fired Ryan Poles, and I was just like, what? And you know, those fake troll accounts make it look real, so I was just like, but then I noticed there was no blue check, and I was like, okay. And that's why that blue check stuff is important. But anyway, I was just like, oh my God. But it was so much fake information out there. There was the whole thing that Peanut Tillman tipped off the Bears about Allen Williams being raided, and that they raided Hallis Hall, and the Bears came out fine. It was like, none of that's remotely true, but people ran with it for hours. And I'm talking about fans, media, everybody just like ran with it like it was true. And then of course our D coordinator ended up resigning, but and there's still a bunch of people that claim they know some stories, and that is crazy, which I don't really believe, because at the end of the day, that many people, random people, saying they know, but they just won't say it. I know it, but I'm not gonna say it till it comes out. Like, well, then you don't know it. That you just heard a rumor. So it was just it. This is where we are with journalism, and integrity is completely out the window. So that, I would say, it was only crazy if you was paying attention to all the ridiculous rumors, and whatever happened with Williams might be wild. We don't know, but until the facts come out from somebody reputable, I'm going to wait. And then outside of that, he stepped down. Eberflus is going to take over those duties, probably mixed with the rest of the staff. So that's a conversation we could get to later. But the big thing that came out was Justin Fields and his press conference, and just a very, to me, disturbing example of sports media and why I absolutely hate it. And they're still doing it today. Now they're talking about he walked back his he didn't walk back, he clarified. And so they completely took him out of context. And I'll break down what he said and what I believe he was saying and all that. I think it's very clear. But the objective fact is, they took the piece of him saying coaching, the piece of him saying he playing robotic and not like himself, whatever. Those are from two different sentences and statements, and they pushed it together to make it seem like that's what he said. And some people are going to say they do that all the time, which my response would be, exactly. That's my point. They always do this. They never report the full thing. They always sensationalize it. They always take it out of context to make it into a story. And so, am I sitting here saying that Justin Fields wasn't letting out some frustration and letting us into what's going on with him? No, obviously he was, but you have to look at things in its full context. I don't know why this is so hard for people to understand, especially living in an age where we've had the internet for so long. You should know by now that reading a quote is not the same as hearing a quote. Hearing a quote is not the same as watching the full thing. And so you have to know the complete thing. This is why I don't understand people that run off with headlines. I mean, we live in a society where people go based off headlines from a news article and never read the news article, and wonder why our America is so misinformed about so many things. So that brings us to this whole thing with Justin Fields. So what did Justin Fields actually say? What was he saying? So Justin Fields, when he talked about coaching, when they asked him why do they think he's been, what's been the cause of him going through these issues, he said coaching. Now, what issues was he talking about? Directly previously to that answer, he was talking about the amount of information that he has and how it's been difficult for him to play fast because he's thinking about all these different things. And so when he says coaching, that is the obvious answer. Who else is giving him information besides the coaches? He's talking about all the things from the game plan that he has to think about. And he mentioned a couple things, but I'm going to just assume here, since I'm not in his mind, but it's kind of football, so there's only a handful of options that you're talking about. And he mentioned some of them. Like I said, he's talking about the reads and the progressions. He's talking about the defensive tails, the alignment that they're in, what kind of tips they're giving as to what coverage they're playing, all those different things, the hot reads, the audibles. So the things that make you a quarterback in the NFL, where there's a lot of information, there's a lot of coaches watching a lot of film and all those different things. The defensive staff's putting in a lot of time, the offensive staff's putting a lot of time. They got a lot of information. And so those things that are a part of the game plan is some of the things that's slowing down his thinking. Now, let me tell you why everybody's running around talking about blaming the coaching, which I really think is the very least of this press conference. The thing that concerns me the most is about that quote is the fact that he's saying he's having difficult handling the NFL offense. And so I think it's natural, and you probably heard me say it, especially when talking about draft time and all that. A player that's not thinking is going to play the fastest. And so when I talked about having continuity with a team being important, things like this are why they're important, because you know it already. Why do you think people always talk about, well, he already knows the system? Because you don't have to learn all this new information. You don't have to learn what the coach likes and what he means by this. You don't have to learn what your teammate's going to do in this situation. When you play with people and you've been in the system for so long, you know what to expect. And so you don't have to think about it. You've seen it so many times. You've done it so many times. It's muscle memory, and you're playing fast, especially on the defense where, you got to actually move. As a quarterback, you're making quick decisions when you know what's coming and you understand what you're looking at. And so it's no knock on Justin Fields to say that I don't know all this information, so I have to think about it. And when I think about it, it makes me play slower. Yes, that's natural. That is any football player. But the problem is he is a quarterback in the NFL trying to run an NFL system. And this is what I'm talking about when all these fans complain about why aren't we running the ball with Justin Fields? Now, of course, they're going to say, I mean, a healthy mix. No, these are the same people last year who were cheering when this man was running like 20 times a game. Why isn't he just a running back? Why aren't we cutting off half the field and play action rolling out 40 times a game to make it easy for him? It does not matter if we did that. If we did that, how does he ever become good at being an NFL quarterback? This is what I'm talking about. And so you saw Lamar Jackson forcibly change his game because he knew, which is only what a few of the people in the sports media said, and I said this too, that if you continue him in the system, he's never going to develop. You don't magically develop as a passer because you're running the ball. And so Lamar had to force his way, as in not taking off and frankly going through some bad play to show the team that I'm done with this whole running back thing. And then they fired the coach, blamed him somehow, and now we're going to see what Lamar does as he has a whole season to go against defenses. But that's the steps you got to take. So this new age idea of you're forcing the quarterback into something he doesn't like, that if I got Tua and I'm taking vertical shots every play because I got Tyreek and Waddle, that's forcing the quarterback into something that doesn't fit him. But saying you're making a quarterback stay in the pocket, read a defense, What are you talking about? That is what the position is. So this idea that you're just going to make this high school offense for him and that's going to make him better. Yeah, the stats are going to be better. You might win a few games, but you really think we're going to the Super Bowl like that? Do you really think he becomes a dangerous quarterback like that? You could say whatever you want about Lamar Jackson. I'm using him because he's the best comp. So I don't want to hear all this stuff. And I'll throw in Josh Allen too. They went on two completely different paths. Lamar won an MVP using that type of offense that got figured out extremely quick, and they were not able to dominate like that ever again. No defense is going to let them do that. And so then Lamar had to struggle and find a way towards a new path, and we'll see where he ends up. Josh Allen was on that track because they were running a high school offense for him because he didn't know what he was doing. But then he took the time out to rebuild himself. The team took the time to go get him some talent, and they rebuilt and slowly got him up to a point where he was an NFL level passer. And so that's what has to happen. You see Josh Allen running around going crazy, making turnovers. They're not winning the game. When Josh Allen was efficient in the pocket, extending the play when he needed to, they won games. And even then, they didn't make it as far as a Joe Burrow or Pat Mahomes. So, like, this stuff is silly. You have to get there. And then people are saying, guess he's trying to force him to be Aaron Rodgers. I don't know, the extent to how true that is, but they watch Aaron Rodgers film, whatever. The thing is, people are like, he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not a pocket quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is the king of extending the play. This is how I know people don't know football. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, any of these players, they're all the son of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the king in the modern era of extending the play. He was the one that made that popular on a consistent basis, and that's what all the college quarterbacks tried to emulate. So to sit here, you don't even know football if you're saying, well, he can't be Aaron Rodgers, just stuck in the pocket. Aaron Rodgers, at his best, like any quarterback, knows when to extend the play when it breaks down and knows how to stay in the pocket and make the big play. And I've said this time and time again, and people that argue this are people that don't listen to me or don't know football. I guarantee it. The biggest pass plays made in the pocket on a consistent basis. Yes, you could get a Hail Mary or a wild play, a broken play once in a while, but tell me how many times that happens a game. How many times in a game do you stand in the pocket until a receiver clears a defender, throw against the pressure, and you're able to make a big play downfield? That happens a lot more than a wild broken play. And it happens because football is science, time and space, limited of both. And you're not going to be able to hit the timing of a route by running around the pocket. As soon as you move to one side of the pocket, you cut off half the field anyway. So I don't want to hear this idea that, they're forcing him to be a pocket pass. And when Justin Fields says stuff like that, that lets me know, again, he's not able to handle an NFL offense. And he's exactly where I told you he would be. He is a player that is clinging to the only thing that he found success with, because he lost so much confidence that the only thing that he ever got praise for and saw to be effective was him being a runner. And now that's all he wants to do. I've seen it time and time again. Players aren't different, high school, college, NFL. The people, they think the same way. I've seen it so many times. Players want to be successful, and that's the only thing he's seen that's successful. So when you hear people say, see, they're not letting him play his game. What is his game? I've watched every snap. What is his game? His game is bad pass play and run the ball. So they're like, see, if he would have just broke the pocket and extend the play. When does Justin Fields extend the play? Justin Fields rarely extends a play. Justin Fields runs to run. He doesn't run to throw. The man drops his eyes when he takes off. He even said it. He said, oh, yeah, on that play, I'm gone. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm gone. He said gone. He didn't say I'm making a throw. So this talk as if Justin Fields has been Pat Mahomes, let's just say that's the best at it right now. So this talk as if he's been Pat Mahomes at times where he's extending the play and getting people open and making passes is a false narrative. He has never been that. Now, you might look at his skill set and say, hey, he could be that. That's fine, but that's not what he does. And so let's just say the team is forcing him to stay in the pocket, which I don't believe. What you have is coaching points and emphasis. Same thing like they do with the refs. Points of emphasis. Coaching points, points of emphasis. One of his coaching points was his pocket presence, which is terrible. And so they wanted to improve that. To change that into, they forced him where he couldn't run. Now, he might be overthinking and saying, man, they don't want me to run, I'm not going to run. Yes, but that's not really the coaches forcing him to do anything. If a play is there to be made, especially extending the play, he could do that. The coaches ain't going to beat him up or bench him for it. They're going to be like, good job. The fact of the matter is he's never been doing that. That's not his game. So I see all these people that just are starving to defend Justin Fields, which is cool, but they're extremists. And they're sitting here, see, it's the coach's fault. The coaches ruined him. First of all, this is his second coaching staff. What do you explain before? How do you explain how he played before, which is very similar to this? So I don't want to hear that. But y'all going too extreme. Like, yes, he says the input from the coaches is affecting him. And so he says he's not feeling natural, like he's playing natural. He's trying to force it. That's any quarterback. There's no team that's like, hey, we're not going to tell you anything. You just go out there and make it happen. What? Are you kidding me? What he's talking about, or what I believe he's talking about in some of the things he mentioned, are standard operating procedures. They want you to work on your pocket because that's where the big plays are made. That's how you win games. If you get down, let's say 10 points and you got 6 minutes left, show me the quarterback that's going to run around and win that game, especially in a playoff scenario. And again, I bring up Lamar because he's the best comp. We've seen it many times in the playoff game. When they get down like that, it goes downhill. Because you can't just break the pocket and scramble around and make plays all the way to a comeback. It rarely happens like that, especially in a playoff game where they watch and study you. So, yes, they want you to work in the pocket. That's one thing as far as rollouts, getting them on the move. Yeah, there's things you can mix in there. Coaching could be better. But to say that coaching is bad because they want you to look at the reads and the progression and that you get information about what the defense is doing and what you need to do to counter it. How many times have we saw Gruden's QB school and people come away impressed? Or we watched the interviews with people with quarterbacks with Mariucci at the combine, or we watch Peyton Manning and listen to him talk, or old tapes of Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, or you watch the QB documentary and you hear them talk about even Mariota talking about all the stuff they do to study. It's not easy. It is a lot of information. The playbook is a lot of information. The concepts is a lot of information. The game plan, the scouting report is a lot of information. Even when you talk about corners, linebackers, any of these top level guys, and they talk about the scouting, they watch the film, they know the tips, they know what's happening, and that's how they make big plays on Sunday. Coaches put them in that position. So when I hear a quarterback sit here and tell me that stuff's too much and he needs to throw it out and just go out and play, that's not a quarterback that's going to last long. That's not a quarterback that's going to last long in this league, because that's part of being a quarterback. All of that is how you take in information, you take in the system. You hear it all the time. Man, this kid's able to take in a lot and spit it right back. They talked about it with Bryce Young and everything. Joe Burrow is one of the guys they talked about. And those are high level performers because there is a mental aspect to it that's very necessary for the quarterback, more so than any position. And so that's the concerning part I take away from his interview, not this whole thing about him throwing the coaches under the bus, which I wouldn't say under the bus, but I definitely think he put blame on them, which is fair. And I think it's silly for anybody to be like, well, you can't say the coaches need to be better. Yes, you can. You can say it, and you can say it behind closed doors and in front of the camera if a coach can do that. Now, to be fair, when coaches do that, like Sean Payton, they like, whoa, you ain't supposed to do that either. So that they give it fairly both ways, but I think it's fine, man. I think that part is actually fine. But y'all got to understand what he's saying, because people took their own narratives and drove it way down the road just because he mentioned the word coaching, and people straight took everything else he said and chopped it together to make it look like he said coaching's made me robotic. It's not what he said. It's not. It's a more of an indirect. And if you listen to the whole interview, he says it a couple times. He says more like an indirect thing, that he said that's more of a me thing, that I'm letting the information slow me down. Like, they're doing their job and giving me this information. That's what they're supposed to do, and it's slowing me down. And so people took that and ran way too far, but as always, we're going to get down to the real truth of the matter. So the last thing with DC Williams, like I said, as of right now, I haven't seen any confirmed stories. There's a lot of rumors out there, people claiming they know what happened, that is bad and all that, and we'll see when that actually happens. But as far as how it affects the team, look, the Bears defense has been way blown out of proportion. I haven't really shown too much film on it, and I don't really have a lot of time like to even do any film right now, but I'm gonna try to squeak in some Darnell Wright and then maybe some defense. But if you watch the actual game, the defense was much improved this week, especially for being down a lot of starters in the secondary. I hear people say Baker Mayfield play excellent against us. He did not play excellent against us. The thing, like I said in our recap, bad tackling, but we really did make some pressure, and we really did hold up in the secondary without really any, maybe one big blown play. And the thing is, whether you want to call Mike Evans a push off or not, he made an explosive play one-on-one. That's him. You could call that a penalty. You could call that a good play or whatever. And so that happened a couple times, for the big plays. But in our run, defense wasn't excellent, but they did exactly what the Packers did. We were aggressive, man. I'd rather us be aggressive. Most coaches say I'd rather have a woe dog than a sick 'em dog. I'd rather have to pull you back than tell you to go forward. So our linebackers shoot. Our defensive line is upfield, and then they like to do reverses or perimeter plays and things that get us out of position, which we should be better at. But again, I'd rather us be aggressive. So there are some things definitely got to be fixed there. But as far as like making Baker uncomfortable, we weren't terrible. Now, nobody's getting off blocks, but again, we're pushing the pocket back. And when we did get to Baker, our tackling wasn't great. And there's some other situations where our tackling wasn't great, but our coverage wasn't leaky. And that was surprising with the backups. And like I said, I mean, you got Wirfs, and the rest of them are just kind of newer guys for the most part. So I wouldn't say it's a great offensive line, but still I was surprised to see our defensive line do as much as they did. Baker definitely made some plays, but there's plays he missed out there and plays that we definitely made them uncomfortable. So I'm not saying we were great, but we were definitely right at the average mark. But people make it seem like our defense is just completely terrible, and I don't necessarily think that. So I say all that to say that the talent is better. With a healthy secondary, I think the team is a solid unit, and we do need to philosophically figure out how to adjust. Because as I said before, and I said last year, the straight up rushing four and dropping everybody in the coverage isn't working, especially when your corners don't have long down the field speed. You got to mix it up a little bit. And we tried some pressure packages this week, and I think we just got to continue to work on that to help us give some type of pressure on the quarterback. But the other thing is we got to really focus on getting healthy if we can in the secondary. So having him leave I'm not going. Last year, like it was like I wouldn't say dirt level, but it was very low level talent, especially on the D line. So, what can you really say about a coach and a team with that type of talent? And I feel similar to this way. And obviously, he hasn't been here that much. So the loss of him, I'm not going to say is a huge negative. Definitely not going to say it's a positive, like some people are going to say. A head coach having to assume defensive coordinator duties. Uh, in the NFL, I think it's fine. Like if this was a different level, maybe whatever. But the NFL has the biggest staff that you want to have, so it's not like he has to go coach a position group or anything like that. He's going to be a part of game planning the same way he should have been a part of it as a head coach, just having to focus more on that and having to focus more on that in practice. So to have one more person, it could be a neutral. It could be a bit of a positive, because when you have one more layer, that's another layer of communication where y'all got to be on the same page. And so maybe Eberflus is able to be more direct about what he wants as a head coach now that he's running the defense. We'll see, but we'll see how they set it up. But overall, I don't think it's going to make this gigantic difference. We know that we are a barely average unit on defense, and switching up coaches, I don't know, going to make a huge difference unless Alan Williams was just negligent and not doing anything. But again, you got a big enough staff where somebody was coaching the defense. And then, well, it's not much to say offensively. We lost Braxton Jones. They think it might be for the year. That would be absolutely terrible. We already got issues with the offensive line, but it's not looking good, but we already knew that. This was just mainly about Justin Fields and his comments. So go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.